We will be recording this. And I believe Sue and Darlene are doing a little presentation, Micah involved as well, and then we're going to have open session for people to talk. So those people online, if you use your hand raise feature, or you can use the Q&A feature and let us know that you have a comment, we'll add you to the queue. And with that, Sue, it is all yours.
Okay, great. Thank you. Darlene, are you nervous that he said you're giving a presentation?
Maybe not nervous, just curious. It's like, okay, I can wing it.
That's not on my agenda here, by the
Okay.
way.
I'm opening it up to whoever wants to talk.
All right.
But anyway, I just wanted to welcome everybody to our first remote listening session, but our third overall listening session. And it has been such an interesting process for us just to get the comments from people. The whole purpose of this is for us to just hear from the public. We have a list of questions, things that we've either been thinking about, planning for, just pondering. And the whole idea is to build this, to take all these ideas, some of the brainstorming that we're doing, and use that along with some data that's being collected in the district and develop a strategic plan. Ideally, it'll be about a 5-year strategic plan, and it'll give us some goals and some objectives with some timelines, you know, how we're going to achieve these goals. So this is just the first part of a long involved process, but very exciting because we do have some new opportunities that we can take advantage of right now. Micah, do you want to give us a little bit more?
You bet. And thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your evening to be here with us. I know our Board of Trustees greatly values our community's input. We did send out a survey to parents and community. So far, we have over 600 responses, which is fabulous. And so we're just excited about that. I think one of the things that we talk about a little bit as we talk about strategic plans is what it is and what it is not. And a strategic plan from the perspective of a school district is really focused on learner outcomes. So what is it that we want our students to know and be able to do into the future? And I think that's a really important distinction. Kind of interwoven into that conversation are things about finance and budgeting and facilities and some of those kind of things, but those are actually different processes. And what our real focus here tonight is, and Sue has a series of questions, is to gauge some feedback from our community, our parents, our teachers, and what we can do to be even better in how we serve students and looking forward to the future. And so I've said this a number of times, but I have never been more excited about public education and Kalispell Public Schools than I have been at this point in my career. I think there are a lot of new opportunities that exist for us and things that we definitely want to take a long, hard look at. And with this community's feedback, we're going to be able to work this into a cohesive plan for what is it that we want our students to be able to do, and what kind of timeline would we give ourselves to be able to see some of those things come to fruition. So just again, grateful that you are joining us tonight, and I am going to turn it over to Sue as she will moderate the questions and the answers. And just a reminder, if you have a question or would like to comment and answer a question, you can raise your hand and we will enable your microphone so that you can speak. Or you can use the Q&A icon down in the bottom of your screen, and you can type your question, and we will try and get those answered on there as well.
Okay.
Sue, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you, Micah. I appreciate that. And just to remind everybody, especially the people who have logged in, we want to hear from you. This isn't you listening to us. This is us, you know, the trustees listening to the public. So I hope you're not shy about raising your hand. And if I don't see it right away, somebody please remind me that there's a hand raised, because I sometimes get going and don't pay attention to that. So the first thing that I wanted to start with is that being in a large district, we have a lot of options for programming. And we're pretty proud of some of those programs. And I just am curious about whether or not there are new programs we should start, if there are some that have run their course. And I'm talking about programs like the Linderman Education Center, the VOAG Center, our music programs, the art programs, Running Start, IB, AP, the theater, those type of programs. Is there something we're not providing? Comments, questions? I see no hands raised. Do we have enough programs? Here, I thought I'd started out with a good question to get you all going, but I'm going to come back to that one. Let's talk about something that we are pretty excited about. Thank you, legislators in this last session. They have given us some flexibility in how we can provide our education, and especially the path towards earning credits for graduation. Used to be you had to be in the classroom, listening to the teacher, reading the textbook, writing the papers. Now we have a lot of exciting things we can do, such as our work-based learning, some apprenticeship programs, the career tech ed, and a mastery learning model towards graduation. What are some thoughts? I know I see a couple teachers or school people, some staff people. What do you think about this mastery model, mastery learning model, or proficiency-based model? Must be good. Any comments? I'm going to start calling on you guys if you don't start talking. Greg.
Go ahead, Greg.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I guess I just got on, so I had to do something. So are we talking about like apprenticeships and all that stuff as far as like the trades and all that stuff?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so I feel like just the whole vibe in the community and as a whole, as far as like trades, there's not a lot of interest in being being an electrician or a roofer, or a guy that puts siding on or stuff like that. But I mean, there's money in there, and it's not like these guys can make a significant amount of money as far as annually they can make $60,000-$70,000 a year. And without them, we're in big trouble, as the infrastructure is getting older, and the building is accelerating everywhere. And I just feel like we need to address some of that. And I know that we have in some meetings about, in central office and all that stuff, about how do we accommodate these kids that are, maybe they're not going to go to college and be a principal or a teacher or something, but they have this knack for doing automotive or welding or stuff like that. And I think we should perpetuate that, and we should embrace that and bring that into the culture. And I think we should have a set of standards where we can bring these guys in and do apprenticeships. I mean, within the district or with outside the district. Every vendor that I've talked to in the last year and a half, they just don't have people. We're talking from glazers, roofers, carpenters, plumbers, concrete work, pavers, on down. They just don't have the ability to provide the service that they want to, so they're turning work down. And it's costing the community money, and it's costing, there's jobs available. So I don't know what we can do to facilitate that on our level, but it's something we absolutely need to explore.
So Greg, in dealing with a lot of the vendors that you do you think there is a willingness for them to take on, a work-based learning student, an apprenticeship, an internship?
Absolutely. I know for a fact that we could. I know we can. We can just there's this, everybody's screaming for help, and it's not the fact that they don't have the answer, but they want to be part of the solution. And that's where we need to focus on. I mean, we're talking custodial, I mean, I can go into all kinds of stuff, but let's use glazing as an example. The window company that we're currently working with, they just don't have they don't have the manpower. But I know if I walked up to them and said, hey, if I could get you 2, 3, 4, 5 kids that want to come in and work for you on an apprenticeship level, would you be interested with that? And then that's going to benefit us in the long run, because they're there, in the community helping us do what we need to do, and vice versa with the HVAC, the heating and cool, the boilers, the plumbers, electricians. Absolutely. I 100% believe that we can make that happen.
And there are a lot of pieces and parts that have to be fit into any new program we put together. But the whole idea right now is to just start talking about some of these new programs. We know that if kids are going to have an apprenticeship, that we have to have some criteria for that. But right now, we're just kind of testing the waters and doing a little brainstorming. So that's good to hear from you, Greg, because I know you are out there always working with, the business folks and a lot of the trades. So that's really, it's nice to hear that that's what we're seeing from them.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sue.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Anybody else? Comments? So let's see, let's really stimulate some conversation. How do you feel about year-round school? I'm kind of teasing on that, but nothing. Okay, let's go on to a next question. One of the things we're very concerned about is the social emotional learning in schools. And there are kind of 2 parts to this. The social emotional learning, and then the mental health support services. And they are different avenues that we have to go down, but it is the social emotional learning, preparing kids for adult life, giving them some skills and how to deal with high emotions, low emotions. How are people feeling about the supports that we have for our social emotional learning needs? Let's start with that one. Hmm. Lynn, I see your hand up.
Hmm.
Go
Hi.
ahead.
Hi. Um, so I am a pediatrician and mother of 2 high school boys at Glacier. And I know that there is a tremendous need in the community for both of the things that you mentioned. And I can't really speak to the specifics, and maybe you can do that, but the specifics of social emotional learning at the middle school and high school levels, I don't really know what's happening there.
Okay, that's fair enough. And that tells me something as, you know, you're a parent and you're not aware of what's happening there. So that's a good observation. Thank you for saying that, Lynn. Yeah. And, you know, the part of that social emotional learning, I always look at it, the social emotional learning is what we teach them in school to get, you know, to deal with situations, the social interactions. Um, when it gets to a point that it is overwhelming for students, and it can become a mental health issue. And so that's where I say there are 2 different paths to this almost. Um, and so I think we need to always make sure our parents know what is available, if that makes sense. Lynn, let me ask you another question. Do you feel like the mental health supports are there for students?
I definitely know that there are mental health supports within the school system. I think there could always be more. I think that this, you know, in particular is a very stressful time. I think the mental health needs of this community are tremendous. Trying to get kids in with counselors right now, they're booking anywhere between 4 and 8 weeks out. And when you have a child who urgently needs to see a counselor, that is not helpful. So I think that there's just tremendous need in this community right now.
Yeah. Thank you. You know, one other side of this, we've been talking about what's available for students, but the other side is there's a need for staff, and I see Paula has her hand up too. So let's just, let Paula talk, and then I can finish. Hello, Paula.
Okay. Oh, I don't know. Am I not working?
Ooh, I cannot.
We can hear you a little bit, Paula.
Okay.
Go ahead and speak up.
I would say I would think that for the mental health for kids should start in elementary school. I mean, I know that you said something about middle school and high school, but I've seen articles where kids as young as 10 are having mental health crisis. So I don't know. I mean, I know that you're saying about having the ability to do that, but I just feel that it should start younger than middle school. I mean, I don't, do the elementary schools have counselors?
Yes.
They do? Okay. Sorry, I just moved here last year, so I'm not that familiar with the school district, but I would really encourage it for younger kids, just to help them build those strategies when they get into middle school, because, you know, the hormones are starting, and just being aware of, you know, their bodies and what other people are thinking of them and all that stuff. So I think starting younger would benefit the kids more so than even middle school. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know there's so much going on here with so many people moving here and not really having, you know, accessibility obviously to things. But I mean, even with the younger kids, I don't know if like mindfulness classes or just ways for kids to be able to deal with the stresses of life, because I mean, as you get more kids, the classrooms get bigger. You know, it's hard for the teachers to help the kids when the class sizes are larger, because I know you can miss out on things for kids, but I mean, even the rate of divorce is high for kids, and so you don't really know like where they are at home and who they have to talk to and all that. So, I mean, even like I said, just starting younger, I think would just benefit them, and providing even, I don't know. I mean, I know it's hard because so much is trying to be fit into each day, but even spending like 20 minutes a day doing something, like I said, mindfulness, just doing something of just being able to talk about how they feel with each other, you know, like have small groups in the classroom, or just something where they can just, you know, encourage each other, just talk through things might be a helpful way. I mean, I feel bad because it's not like I want to add to the teacher's plate, but just maybe they can do different strategies to work with the kids just to be able to, you know, communicate what's going on. Because that, you know, at that age, it's even hard for them to find the words for them to communicate how they feel, but just maybe just something. I don't know what the answer is, but just starting something for the younger kids, I think would help to be more proactive. Because I think just starting in middle school, I don't want to say it's too late, but it is too late, if that makes sense. I think we really need it to be younger.
Yeah, Paula, I think those are great comments, and I think we do tend to talk about those services being at the higher levels a lot, but we need that reminder that we need those programs at the elementary level too. So thank you for those comments.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. Anybody else? I don't see any hands up. So what I had started to mention is that we have programs for students that perhaps we need to promote more, but we also have an issue with staff and the needs for mental health services, for counseling, for staff members, especially in these past 2 years. Teachers have a lot on their plate. Is there a feeling that we have support for staff, that staff knows about it? How are you feeling about that? Anybody? Okay. Let's talk about academics for a little bit. Academic interventions, such as our reading intervention programs, our math intervention programs. Do you feel like there are enough things available for the academic side of instruction? This is a tough crowd. I'm going to have to start telling jokes here pretty soon. Paula, thank you.
Well, I'm just going to talk a little bit. I don't really know what's offered per se, but my son is dyslexic. So his dyslexia is not in reading, it's actually in spelling. I will say that we have a 504 plan, but this isn't anything against the middle school, but I'm not sure what really is provided for him per se, if that makes sense. I mean, I do know that they have a class for reading, but different than like not geared towards kids, you know, with reading issues.
Yeah.
But it would be, I guess it would be nice for the parent to know, because I mean, you have, what is it, like it's one in 5 kids have dyslexia, and dyslexia is a broad spectrum. And so dyslexia is in math, dyslexia is in reading, dyslexia is in spelling. So for me, I guess it would be nice to have more of that information of what actually is being provided for kids, and that needs to start. I do know that they say dyslexia needs to be diagnosed in kindergarten, and I'm not sure how the public schools actually do that, or if they have dyslexia specialists in the school district. But that needs to start at a younger age than even, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, once they say once you get to like 3rd grade, if you haven't been diagnosed and have started to get the help that you need, you're behind. So I don't know what the school district provides, but I mean, 1 in 5 is a lot of kids, and there's 4 different levels of dyslexia that kids have too. So like I said, I just know with the shortage of teachers and specialists and all that stuff, I don't truly know what is provided for the school, because I mean, I had a meeting with the assistant principal who's in charge of the 504 plans, but I wasn't really given like per se information about what's available. So I think just with those high numbers of 1 in 5, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I think that somehow parents should be given that information, because a lot of parents don't even realize their kids are dyslexic. And I think sometimes that even teachers can miss it, which if you don't specialize in it, you don't really know the signs. It's hard. But like even for the middle school, I mean, you have the 3 different teams, and the teachers have 100 kids, over 100 kids. It's hard to, you know what I mean? It's just hard for teachers to
Paul,
see things.
remind me, you said you were new to the area. How long have you
Yeah.
been here?
We just got here May of
Okay.
last year, and so Ty was at Edgerton. So I didn't really do much there because we just came in May. But even with like the middle school, like I said, I don't know what's provided, but I do know it needs to be earlier than, you know, middle school. But
So as a new person to the district, a relatively new person to the school district, what do you feel the communication with parents is like? Is it adequate? What are your thoughts there?
no, I don't feel that it's adequate. I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
I don't. It was more like, here's the information, just sign your student up. So no, I mean, I wasn't given any information at all about what was provided for the elementary school. Nothing. And I mean, I understand even with it being coming in as late as we did, but even for the middle school, like I wasn't even really provided with sufficient information, you know, in regards to what actually is offered for the kids. I mean, I just had a conversation on the phone with his assistant principal, and I gave him the diagnosis of what Ty was, because he was officially diagnosed by a professional, and I gave him the whole report, told him the modifications, and left kind of at that. And he was supposed to write something up, but when I went in to meet with the teachers, no one knew that he was dyslexic. They were never told, which bothered me, because that was part of the plan, is to have a discussion with the teachers so they knew where Ty was coming from. But I've also taught him to use his voice, and he did share with the teachers he's dyslexic, but it was never discussed among the teachers, which it was supposed to be according to the principal, the assistant principal, and that never happened. So that bothers me, because I feel like I feel like they should be aware of the situation. Like I said, I know it's hard because they have so many kids, and doing modifications, it's hard to a point, but it is legally, it should happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I feel like there has to be some kind of happy medium, if that makes sense. But I think that when a parent says, hey, my child is dyslexic, or my child has ADD or ADHD or autism, I think parents should be given the information that they need of programs that are provided or whatever the school provides, and that didn't happen for me. So.
Yeah. Okay. And the communication piece is something that we have been talking about, and we all know in this day and age, communication is crucial. So
It is.
very good to get those comments, especially, as a new person, moving into the district. Thank you,
Yeah.
Paula. I appreciate those
You're welcome.
comments.
I'm a very type A personality, and communication is very important to me. So I'm more proactive when it comes to that. So, I mean, at least letting people know what's going on with Ty. But like I said, it would benefit families a lot that are coming here, since the area is growing so fast, just to have the information and the tools to decide where they want to go or what they want to do with it, because it becomes their choice once it's given. But if it's not given, then you don't know what's provided for you. So that would be helpful.
Yeah. I see, a couple comments here in the chat related to the social emotional learning and the mental health supports. I don't know if these are supposed to be private comments or public comments. I'm happy, to read them. But I also want to remind people that this is not so much a question and answer time as just establishing some issues and some things we need to do a little better. If you put a comment in there, would you please let me know if you want me to read it out loud? Because I am happy to do that. Okay. Let's talk for a little bit about extracurricular programs. We've got clubs, activities, athletics. The different schools seem to have different strengths. And one thing that we've talked about at one of our sessions was what's available at the elementary level as far as extracurriculars. So any thoughts on that? Do we have enough? Do we need new things? Okay, we can still talk about year-round schools. Okay, let's talk about technology. We are in an age of technology. I mean, we use it right now. And technology is not just computers. Technology, I know, Micah, you had a good explanation of it. It's everything from the plasma cutters to, I can't even remember what else you said, but technology is a large term. Do we have sufficient technology access to serve the needs of teaching and learning? Lynn.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a reality or not, but I watched a special on PBS a few years back where they had these kids in a classroom in front of computer screens, and they were all doing self-paced learning, and the teachers were there to assist them when they had troubles, when they got stuck, if they didn't understand material. But the kids were all learning the material at a pace that worked for them. And it feels to me like we have this tremendous capability, but we're not really using it to its full potential.
Mhm. Good comments. You know, that is one of the things that we're pretty excited about, that we can do more personalized learning. The legislature has given us some flexibility in that. And, you know, we would love to move into that area, because there are some kids, I mean, everybody learns different. And we have to provide for all those different learning styles. So yeah, that is a good comment. You know, it'd be kind of cool to see that as part of our education system. Probably not exclusively, but yeah. Thanks, Lynn. I appreciate that. Any other comments? Paula.
So for the classes, I noticed here for the middle school, they don't, except for math, that you can go into a higher math class. But does the high school do like a basic academic and then like honors classes? Does that make sense, where they teach at kind of at the level that they are? I don't know if you do, or if that would be like an option, and using that technology to help them in the class that maybe they need more help, personalized help in, if that makes sense. Does the high school do it that way, or is everybody just kind of in a class?
Micah, do you want to respond, or?
Sure, I can take a stab at that one. So I think the question is to what level do we differentiate the instruction based on ability? And we certainly have courses, and I'll just use math as an example. It's an easy one, where students might be in the 9th grade, they might be in a pre-algebra class, they might be in an algebra 1 class, they might be in geometry, they might be in algebra 2 or beyond. And so we schedule students that way, but we tend to stay away from titling courses as basic or novice because there's a stigma attached to that. And we believe that challenging students to reach their potential with their peers is a better model for that. You know, and it could be said that some students have greater strengths in certain areas. For example, some students might be really strong in a course like art. And so what looks challenging to one student may not be as challenging to another. But we also offer at our high school levels, we offer reading intervention and enrichment classes. Those are leveled. And then you just have you know, upper level courses like our IB program, our AP program, but they're open and accessible to all students. We don't have any kind of testing requirements or anything to have students not be able to take those types of courses.
Thanks, Micah. I appreciate that. You know, and along with the technology piece, just having the actual technology is the knowledge and the ability to utilize it. And we have been talking, you know, about getting staff trained to utilize the technology. Do you think we have enough professional development for the staff to fully utilize technology, the technology we have and the technology we would like to have? I mean, staff members use technology from everything from taking their attendance to using it to do welding and culinary arts. It's used for a lot. Does the training need to follow with that technology? Okay, moving on. Let's talk about additional space. First of all, Glacier and Flathead High Schools will require additional space to serve students in the near future. Do you agree with that statement, disagree, or somewhere in between? You know, Flathead High School just had a pretty significant remodel. The footprint is hard to expand just because of the location of Flathead. Glacier is how old? It's over 10 years old now. I know, can't remember the exact one, but you know, it's the newer high school. Is that, you know, sufficient? Lloyd Bondi, I see you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to know, do you know what, as far as the build of the schools and the capacity, do you know what percent capacity those two schools are currently? At what capacity? As far as number of students goes?
Micah, do you have those numbers?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because defining capacity based on how many bodies can you fit into a school is one piece of the puzzle. But the other thing that we're wrestling with is a capacity for some of our programs. So for example, we have 11 science teachers at Glacier High School, and we only have 7 science labs. We have no more room to add art, vocational offerings, music, anything that requires any kind of specialty lab or things like that. Glacier High School was built to accommodate roughly 1,300 students, and they're right up at that capacity. Flathead High School with the remodel could probably handle several hundred more. But again, once we, you know, it's a matter of how many bodies can you fit into the physical space, and then what do you have in way of programming that you can continue to offer to students. So we struggle with, just as an example, the number of students that want to take, say, a Woods class. And we have more kids that register for the class than we can actually fit into the physical space. And then we don't have that classroom available, you know, beyond the 7 periods of the day. And then we start looking at things like early bird or late afternoon, after school's out type scenarios. So that's a tough one, Lloyd, to say, you know, what the true capacity is. We see architects will base it off the square footage within a building. We look at it, you know, classroom max class size is 30 students to a class for accreditation standards. But if you were to ask me, I would say we're at capacity at Glacier High School, and we have a little bit of room to grow at Flathead High School right now.
Okay. So what, I agree with, I understand what you're saying. And I think I asked that question wrong because I did want to include all those things that you had talked about. And I'm wondering, and I know it's probably not feasible, but curious, what would it be like would we ever be able to add another school, another whole campus? Or I know I see smiling, yeah, I want, just as my 2 cents, I want kids to be able to take those classes. I don't want there to have to be a waiting list. I don't want there to have, I want them to have all the opportunities that they can to enrich their education and to expand on it. So I know I'm all for expanding what we have currently if it's possible. I believe there's extra room out by Glacier to possibly put another building maybe. But what do you guys have currently as a plan for trying to go forward with making more room for these students?
Yeah, that's a great question. In part because we've been having some conversations at the board level, and they've been initial conversations because we're also experiencing that same kind of growth at the elementary and middle school level. So our middle school has about 1,100 students in it. And again, kind of hitting that capacity standpoint. And then we opened Rankin Elementary in 2018. It currently has 420 students in it. We redrew the elementary boundaries to accommodate for that new school. And so we moved 100 kids out of the Edgerton district, and Edgerton is back up to where it was when we redrew the boundaries. So the question I think in front of the board is, what do we prioritize, and then what strategy do we use to get there? I think our community has been really good about supporting bond measures, which are what we use to build buildings. At the high school level, we have struggled with the levy side of it, and that's those ongoing operational costs. We have to be able to have the funds to be able to hire the teachers, to be able to put them into the spaces. So those have been ongoing conversations this year. And after we're done with our strategic planning for learner outcomes, we'll be really diving in on what are we going to do from a facility standpoint. But, I think there's some creative options in all of this as well. For example, if students were able to go out and do an internship as a part of their coursework, they wouldn't necessarily need to be in a classroom. And so some things like that might be able to actually free up some space, for the short term. But I think with the growth that we've seen in our valley, we are just going to continue to experience some challenges in that regard. But definitely something we'll be working on.
I know my understanding, and I don't know, I don't have this fact for sure, but my understanding is that our valley grew by 30,000 last year. And that's just a number I heard thrown around, but I just am concerned that at that kind of a growth rate, with people moving in from states that are kind of blowing up right now, that we're going to overflow real soon. So that, anyways, that's just my 2 cents. You're asking for comments. I wanted to make sure it was heard. And I want to tell all of you, thank you so much for doing this. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Micah. Okay.
You have a couple other hands up.
Oh, yep, I do see them. Okay, Connie, let's go to Connie and then to Paula.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I was just curious how many like seniors you have at Glacier High School, approximately.
You're muted.
You're muted, Mike. Okay.
Sorry, I was actually going to pull up the actual number right now. We're over 300
Over 300.
at each high school.
So at Flathead and then at Glacier, over 300 at each place, seniors?
Yes.
And I was just curious, out of those 300, say like at Glacier or Flathead, how many of those students would you say are at grade level or above? And what percentage would be below? Percentages, approximately.
So at grade level or above, I guess it depends on what measure you're using. If you're using an ACT score, which is a norm reference test, and so it's not really a true score of what you know. It's a score of how you rank for every child that takes the ACT. Our students have traditionally done pretty well. I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head. But there are other measures. Other measures that I would look at would be things like graduation rates, dropout rates, and we're in the high 90s on those. For graduation rate, dropout rate can vary from year to year, but that's something that we're always working on. And I think the measures are something that our state has struggled with. In the past, we've had other assessment tools that we've been able to use to gauge, and we certainly use those internally and have our own measures that we've developed, but they aren't referenced across anything else but our state standards. And so, coming from the Montana Office of Public Instruction, they said, 7 years ago, hey, we're just going to test juniors on the ACT. Every junior is going to take it. And so I don't know if I can give you all the specifics to that, Connie.
Uh-huh. All right, so you're saying high 90s graduate.
Yes.
That's a pretty good percentage, I'd say. Uh-huh. And do you guys teach Common Core there, or do you?
Our state, Montana Office of Public Instruction, has adopted the Common Core state standards.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Connie. Paula.
So with you saying that the Flathead could handle a couple more hundred students, could you change the boundaries to accommodate the influx of Glacier to Flathead, or is the amount of students increasing the same at each? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think there's some challenges, and our school district certainly experienced it when we changed elementary boundaries, to tell a parent that, hey, I know you're at Flathead High School this year, it's your sophomore year, but because of where you live, we're going to move you away from all your friends and your activities and everything else that you've grown to love because of where you live. Those are really challenging conversations with the community. And one of the things that I would look at just from a future perspective, I've met with the city council, or not city council, but the city planning department, and they have shared with us where all of the projected growth is expected to be in the valley, and just the number of units that they're expecting to see in the next 10-year build out. And it's pretty significant, and especially to the north and to the west. And one of the things that, that we see from a high school perspective is we have 13 partner districts that feed into our high school district. So Kalispell boundaries, Kalispell proper, those elementary districts are pretty well set. And the amount of homes that are going to be built within the city limits is pretty well set. But it's those outlying areas. So when Kyla and Marion and Smith Valley and West Valley and those other communities start to grow, and they see more kids, we see more of those kids coming in at the high school level. So I think that could be considered as an option to redraw the boundaries, but I don't know if that would be in the best interest of our community to do that at this point.
So then would you have the funds to create another high school, or you guys don't have the interest in creating another high school? So like the Evergreen Middle School or West Valley Middle School could go in per se. I know that's different areas, but could you create another high school to accommodate that, or that's not even an option either?
No, I mean, I think we could. If we talked to our community and we surveyed them and said, hey, here we have some options for you. One is we're going to redraw the boundaries, yay or nay. Two would be to add on to Glacier High School. And just for the record, it was designed and built to be added on to.
Okay.
So that is a possibility. Or three, would you consider a bond for building a new high school? And then where would we like to see that high school? Should it be out north and west of town? Should it be to the south? And should we redraw all the boundaries? Those are really complicated conversations, but are worth the conversation. It'd be good to get our community's input on what they would want to see.
So realistically, just talking, so you could actually take, because you can't really expand Flathead High School, you can maybe make that another middle school per se, have two middle schools in Kalispell, and then possibly buy property and build a new high school even for that one to be able to expand. I'm just asking if those are possibilities.
Yeah, I think they could be possibilities. We're also dealing with two different districts. We have a high school district that is completely separate from the elementary district. And so taking a high school building and converting it into a middle school would be something that I would have to look into from a legal perspective.
Okay.
But, I think there's other options out there too. The land that is just south of Rankin that we purchased and that whole design was actually designed to incorporate another middle school into our district into the future. So if we did that and we made it large enough, could we move fifth grade out of the elementary into the middle schools. And so you have 5th through 8th grade middle schools, and that frees up room at the elementaries and in kindergarten through 4th grade or pre-kindergarten through 4th grade. And then can we do something to address the challenges that we're seeing at the high school level? So lots of options. Everything will have to be considered and taking into account what our community would like.
And so does Kalispell have an actual vo-tech school?
We have an Ag Ed Center, and at the Ag Ed Center, we cover a variety of different courses, welding, ag education. We offer 4 different years of that, veterinary science, just a wide variety. It's not its own standalone tech school, but a lot of those things feed into that. And then we have a separate program that includes our house construction program.
Because I was just curious, is like maybe taking like the automotive or electrician and creating its own space. Would that free up space at the high schools? You know what I mean? Like they could take their core classes, but then take other classes in a different building. Does that free up space, or that's not feasible?
It could, yeah.
Okay.
You know, and
Thank you.
I think an interesting part is that nothing is off the table. I mean, a lot of things are possible, but we have to figure out what our priorities are. I like to think of, core values, and then the things that we can change. Some of our core values, and we established some of those in our conversations. The VOAG is one of our core values, one of the things we want to keep. So in listening to the community, starting with these very listening sessions, we can figure out what the priorities are and then where our goals and objectives need to be. Connie, I want to give you a chance to comment.
How many days a year do students go to school? About?
180.
Okay, so you were talking about, so you kept asking about year-round school. I mean, the school, the taxes are super expensive, and most of our taxes, over 51%, goes to the schools, to build more schools. Do they ever consider, when you're saying having the classes year-round, do you ever consider running 2 180-day programs a year with the students, make it more efficient?
That's why I always throw that one out, Connie, just to get people thinking, there are alternative ways to do things to get our 180 days or, to get kids to graduation. That's the ultimate goal.
Because like I say, the real estate taxes are super expensive,
Yeah. Connie, are you new to the area?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I have another question. Do you guys have, because I've heard that one of the schools has like CNN 10 News. Do you guys do that at your schools too? CNN 10 it's called?
I have not heard of that one.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm writing it down.
Yeah, CNN 10 it's called.
Okay. Okay, my next question is, let's see, I just lost it on my sheet. Kalispell Public Schools has installed and utilizes safety measures that ensure a safe physical environment for students and staff. Do you agree? Disagree? Somewhere in the middle? Thoughts? Do we provide a safe place for our students? And safe, maybe that's not even the word I want to use, but a place where students can confidently learn. They're not, worried about things happening in their school. Do we do a good job providing a safe environment? Okay, we'll go Paula first and then Connie.
Do we have statistics of what occurs in regards to fighting, weapons, drugs? Do we keep track of those incidents in schools? Just out of curiosity.
Yes, we do. We pretty much any disciplinary type of offense is entered into our student database system.
Okay.
And then
So-
if it involves like law enforcement or suspension or something like that, we actually report all of that to OPI.
Okay. And so what are your steps for taking for, locking down the schools, I guess I would say? I mean, I know when the incident happened at Fuel Fitness that the middle school was on was it a lock-in? Or
Yeah,
lockdown?
I would say generally, Paula, that we're always going to prioritize our student and staff safety, and we'll take whatever action is necessary. We train our staff annually on process, procedures, protocols, and what to do in various types of incidents.
And so for the resource officers, is there one assigned to each school, and are they there certain times of the day, or are they there all day?
We have one assigned to each high school and one assigned to the middle school. We pay for 75% of that salary as a school district. And then those school resource officers are also partnered with our elementary schools. So everybody's assigned to some coverage. Generally speaking, they are with us the 180 school days. There are times when they might be out sick or at training or something like that. And in those situations, Kalispell Police Department has other officers that they make available during those times.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Connie and then Lynn.
Yeah, you mentioned confidence and learning and stuff, and I was just wondering, have you considered putting cameras in classrooms so parents can watch what their students are learning, what their children are learning?
No, we have not.
Would that be something you would consider?
Probably not. If I heard that we had a wide range of parents who were maybe looking for that, we could talk about it, but generally speaking, we would not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Lynn.
I just wanted to say I love the resource officers being at the high school and the middle school. They seem to know all the students and interact well with them, and it feels like a really good opportunity, as well as a good safety measure. And then I just wanted to echo the gentleman that spoke a while ago, that as a parent, I think it's incredibly important to have the variety of offerings that we have. And I hope to see the district continue and expand as possible.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. That is one nice thing about being a big district, is we can provide a lot of different things, a wide variety of things. I'm always amazed, with the popularity of different activities and clubs and things we offer. Just the sheer number of classes we can offer is amazing. It's one of the best parts of being a trustee, is getting to look at the new classes that are getting proposed. And so yeah, pretty exciting stuff. Anyone else? We're coming to the end of my list of questions, but one thing I did want to get some comments on is that students are given the instruction and support needed so they can achieve at least 1 year of academic growth per school year. Do you agree with that? Disagree with it? Have questions about it? Are kids making annual, yearly progress? There's been a lot of discussion, nationally, especially when some schools have not been in-person learning. So a lot of discussion. So Paula?
So where is the information provided in regards to the testing that's done for the students? Or here in Montana, what kind of testing do you do to see where the kids are in their progress? Do you test them beginning of each semester? Well, I know the middle school does semester, everything is different, but how do you do the testing here in the state?
Sure. I'll take that one, Sue. So at the elementary level, we use a testing program called AimsWeb, and we test on a trimester basis. So we test in the fall, in the winter, and the spring. And those tests are benchmarked and normed for grade level expectations. And so we are able to look and see and really drill down into each individual student and plan interventions around those results and whatever supports. Or in some cases, we have students who test off the charts, and we recognize that we've got to do something more to enrich their education. At the middle school level, we do some of the AimsWeb testing in math and in ELA or English Language Arts. But then we also have a statewide test at the middle school called the Smarter Balanced Assessment. And that is a more comprehensive assessment that is trying to capture students' ability to read, write, reason, understand content area subject. And always happy to report that our middle school students test at the top in the state on that particular assessment. And then as we get into the high school, there is a science criterion reference test. They call it the CRT that we use, but I think we're pretty much one of the very few in the state, in the country that uses that particular assessment. And then we use the ACT, PSAT, some of those college entrance placement tests. But then we also have other measures that we use. We use the ASVAB. That's one that students can take for entrance into the military. It's not a required assessment for all students, but it gives them a gauge and a sense of where they're at and what their aptitudes are.
And is that testing provided to the parents? Because I haven't seen any information in regards to that.
Yeah, and so the testing window, and I think you said earlier that your student is in the middle school.
Yeah, because he said he's been tested twice for math, but I've never been provided any of that testing. And his math teacher did tell me when I went to the parent-teacher conference, but I've never seen any of that information or where it would be provided for me to look at, just so I can see.
Sure. And I'm not sure I can speak to the exact details, but most of that testing is uploaded into our student database system, and we can access it anytime. And then usually what you're going to see at the end of the year is a comprehensive report for your student on how they did on those assessments. And so, for example, the SBAC is an assessment that we give in the spring, and then we'll get those results either late spring or once school is out, but we always try and report those back to parents.
Okay, so basically you're saying we don't really have that information to look at. The teachers get the information and they go from there and providing what the student needs?
Yeah, and I would say that, these tests or these assessments are only one indicator. I think the other things you're looking at, and especially at the middle school where we have standards-based grading, is looking at what those competencies are that the teachers are evaluating students against, and then seeing how your child is doing there. So you should be getting, trimester report cards. And if they're in the Encore wheel, you're going to probably get quarterly reports. So yeah, that information should be available to you.
Because I get the numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4, but a lot of there's not a lot of feedback per se from the teacher. And I get, even if they're at a certain level, I guess in a way for a parent, it would be nice to kind of know where they need help. So as a parent, you could be actively participating and helping your child, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And Paula, that goes back to our question about, communication with parents. And we've identified that as being a core value, something that maybe we need to strengthen. Thank you for those comments.
That's because it's kind of hard if you don't get the information until the end of the year. Then you're kind of, the year's almost over, and you're like, okay, what just happened? like if I would have known, you just, more information is better for the parent, just to be able to talk to the teacher or whatever it may be. Like I said, even at the middle school, when you have a teacher who has 100 students, that's hard to, 100 students is a lot of kids. And if you're teaching at a certain level and a child who needs help, kind of getting left behind, if that makes sense. So it's good for the parents to say, well, I need to use the resource for my child for the tutoring that's offered. I know the middle school has the tutoring at the end of the day that you can go for that hour on certain days and get the extra help. So it would be kind of nice for the parents to have that information to say, hey, this is where my student is and this is where they need help. Yep. Are you providing that? Or as a parent, can you give me some resources that I can use to help, to get them where they need to be?
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, Paula. Lloyd, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, ma'am. Could you repeat your initial question one more time for me, please?
Yes. In talking about instruction and support needed so they can achieve at least 1 year of academic growth per school year. Do you agree that we have the instruction and supports needed for students to make that yearly progress?
I do agree. And I wanted to point out that the education system as a whole is different than it was 2 years ago. And that the biggest thing is that you guys have been able to keep the schools open the entire time, with some quarantines here and there, but you're able to keep them open. And I think that's so important. I have a lot of friends in other states where their kids are still not in school. And so I think more importantly, whether or not they're getting a full year's academic growth, is that they're able to grow at all at this point. And I do believe they're getting a full year's academic growth from Kalispell School District. So I applaud you guys for that. And I know you've worked hard and it's not been fun and it's been a lot of back and forth, but my kids are stronger because of it. So yeah, I do feel like they are getting that year-long growth.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, Lloyd. And we are very proud of the fact that our schools have stayed open. We've worked very hard to do that very thing, and it has been work. And I have to give all the credit to our school staff, superintendent on down. Everybody has pitched in. It has been much different these last 2 years than it has ever been before. We've learned a lot of things about it. Some things are good, some things not so good. We just have to figure out what we want to keep and what we're gonna toss out when, next year.
I agree. And,
Yes.
you know, I've butted heads in the past with one particular issue, but as a whole, I think Kalispell School District is an amazing school district. I think they're doing excellent things, and I hope that that they can only get better from there. So thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Lloyd. You know, and one of the issues we do have is the valley is growing very quickly, and it is affecting our schools. And we have a lot of feeder schools that, you know, everybody comes at different levels. They've learned different things. It's a difficult job to coordinate all that. But I think our teachers have been doing a very good job of that. And I have to commend the teachers because I think they're always willing to talk with parents. You know, this has just been such an unusual year. We're asking so much of our teachers, and I'm proud that they have stepped up to the plate. You know, and I'm just looking at some of the comments in the chat box, and yes, I think our teachers are really doing a lot of things, but some things we want to do even better. So that's the whole idea behind this session. I have reached the end of my list of questions, so I would like to ask if there are any other topics that you would like to comment on. Yeah, Paula.
I would just like to ask about the retention of teachers, and also, I guess, what the progress is for acquiring more teachers. I know there's a shortage with teachers, so I was just kind of curious. I guess if you have a plan for that, just it seems like things are changing with that dynamic.
Mike,
You want me to take that one, Sue?
yes, please, because I didn't hear the whole thing.
All right. So the question was about teacher shortages and retaining teachers. And I think that's always been a challenge. One of the things that we have going for us in the Flathead Valley is people want to live here and be here. It's a great place to live, to recreate, to do all those kind of things. I think our bigger challenge in the near future is providing salary and benefits that will allow them to live here. We had a number of positions last year that were offered to just amazing candidates. And when they tried to pencil it all out, you know, they just said, we can't afford to move there. And so that's a challenge for us. But our ability to recruit and attract people has not been that significant. There are some areas in specialized programs, and I would just use things like foreign language, family consumer science, ag ed teachers, vocational teachers. Those positions are becoming harder and harder to fill, in part because a lot of our colleges in the area are not offering those programs anymore. And so we just have to start looking farther afield to find these qualified candidates. But you know, we have all of our teachers, our staffing shortages are more around paraprofessionals, bus drivers, custodians, positions like that, where, you know, what was once maybe close to a livable wage they're becoming priced out. And so those are our challenges with that, Paula.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions from trustees? Seeing none, I think I'm gonna.
Sue, I just wanted to thank the people that did participate. So thank you. Very thoughtful questions and a lot for us to think about and to work on.
Yeah,
so thank you.
Yeah, very much so. Thank you for saying that, Kim. I'm going to give everybody back the rest of their evening. And yes, thank you very much for participating. This is not the end of listening sessions or not the end of listening to the community. We do plan to continue having listening sessions, you know, throughout the school years, just to hear from parents and community members. That's an important part of what we do. So stay tuned for all of that. If you have other comments, remember we have an online survey that you can also participate in. And they are the exact same questions that we have talked about tonight. And I, you know, encourage you to do that. And otherwise, I thank you very much for being part of this. Anything else, Micah?
Nope, just grateful for our community's participation and look forward to doing great work in the future.
Okay, so thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.